Hey everyone, Emilio here from Libsyn, and today we're going to be going through a bit of a microphone shootout, comparing some different dynamic microphones, as well as some different condenser microphones, as well as a few different little form factors there between the microphones. Just to let you know, I'm recording the video for this just so that you can get a sense of how big the microphone is. If you're doing a video podcast, that is maybe something you want to consider. So how much of the frame the microphone is going to take. I also am not using any windscreens for any of these microphones, just to give you as much of a raw sound recording test that we can get here. For the sake of videos, since we are talking about gear, I'll just let you know what I'm using. So this is a webcam. It is the YOLOLive YOLOcam S3. It's a 4K webcam, but right now I'm just recording in 1080. It's about $200 if you want to pick up something like this. There are a bunch of different brands that make webcams that are equivalent to this, but just to let you know what that is. Let's see, what else do we have? So one thing I do want to mention, I am going to place all the microphones below my mouth so that it's not going to pick up too much of the kind of wind coming from me speaking. You may pick up some of that here and there, so that's just something to consider as well, like how much of that wind noise from like plosives, like P's and B's and all of that, the microphone is going to pick up. But I am going to place the microphone below my mouth. I have it a couple inches away from my mouth, so kind of to show you, I'm touching the grill of the microphone and touching my lips here, so it's just a few fingers away, just a couple inches away from my mouth. And I think we can go ahead and get started, so let's jump in. All right, so to get started, we are going to get going with our dynamic microphones, and the first one that I'm going to start with is right here in front of me. This is the one that I use most often, and this is the Shure SM7B. So this is a dynamic cardioid microphone. It is kind of gain hungry, so that's just something to keep in mind there. With something like this, you're usually running from the SM7B into something that is going to boost the gain, so often a cloud lifter. There are many different companies that make similar products that are going to just boost the gain to get it to a better level so that you don't have to crank the gain on your audio interface as much. You can crank the gain on your audio interface, but if you do that past a certain level, it's going to introduce a lot more hiss into the sound. So just something to keep in mind there. I am going into a cloud lifter and then into my audio interface, and from there going into the computer. So if you add all of that up, it kind of does get a bit expensive for like a $400 microphone, which at the time of recording, the SM7B is about $400. Cloud lifter is about $100. Audio interface can go anywhere from, I don't know, about $100 and up. So you're looking probably at least around $600 to use something like this. And one thing to note about this microphone, one reason why it got so popular in the beginning is that it was used on some of the Michael Jackson Thriller vocals. So yeah, this is the Shure SM7B. All right, so the next dynamic microphone we're going to be checking out is the Shure SM57. So this is another dynamic cardioid mic. It's a little bit smaller than the SM7B. It's not as gain hungry as the SM7B either. So on the audio interface I'm using, I turn that down just a little bit. And then this is primarily used as an instrument microphone, miking up different guitars, different guitar amps, pianos, a lot of different instruments can use this, snare drums. It's often used within music studios a lot of times. This comes in around $100, so significantly less expensive than the SM7B. And it also, again, being not as gain hungry, you don't necessarily need to use a cloud lifter or something to boost the gain there. Usually the audio interface you're using is going to have enough gain. For the sake of consistency, though, I am using the cloud lifter with this just to compare it a little more closely with the SM7B. So again, this is the Shure SM57. I'm about the same distance away that I was from the Shure SM7B. All right, so the final Shure microphone that we're going to be checking out today is this Shure Beta 58A. Now this is a dynamic supercardioid mic, so the supercardioid meaning that the polar pattern is a little bit different to be a little bit more narrow, so moving off axis of the mic is going to have a bigger difference compared to something like the SM7B or the SM57. So as I move away from the mic more, the volume is going to drop off more dramatically, more quickly. This mic, compared to the others, needs the least amount of gain. So this would work very easily with any audio interface without the need for a cloud lifter or something boosting the gain for you there. By nature, this is built for being like a live vocal microphone. So what that means is that within the EQ of the microphone itself, a bit more of the lows are kind of turned down or kind of tamed a little bit. And then one thing to kind of be aware of with that is that some of the mids can be boosted or sound boosted a bit with that. So just something to keep in mind. Again, you're going to want to judge each of these with your own voice, not just mine. So one thing to keep in mind about my voice, I don't have a very low or deep voice. So something that has some low end to it is usually helpful for my voice, but I know some of these mics I've used on other people that have a lot of low end in their voice. Sometimes we have to taper that off in post-production using EQ just because it can be a little overwhelming. So this mic goes for around $170. Again, this is the least hungry or least gain hungry mic of the bunch of Shure microphones that we're doing in this comparison. So this is the Shure Beta 58A. So this is the Sennheiser E945. This is also a dynamic supercardioid mic, similar to the Beta 58A that we just took a look at. This one, what I'm hearing is that it has a little bit more boost in the sibilants or the sibilant frequencies, kind of high frequencies. Usually I find those around 4K, 6K if we're getting kind of technical about it. This one, there is a roll-off in the low end because it is primarily used as a live vocal microphone, but the roll-off is a little bit different than the Beta 58A. This microphone usually comes in around $200 at the time of recording this. So again, this is the Sennheiser E945. All right, so now we are back. This is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. This is also a dynamic cardioid mic, similar to the SM7B, the SM57, but this one is a USB or XLR microphone, so you can connect to your computer or audio interface via either of those. The previous microphones that we've looked at so far have all been XLR only, so you would need some sort of audio interface to connect to a computer. With this, you can take a USB cord and just connect it straight to your computer. This one is now discontinued, but it was the main competitor for a while to the Samson Q2U, which is very similar. Similar idea of being a dynamic cardioid microphone. It has both XLR and USB outputs to get into your computer or audio interface. And so this is, and as well as these Samson Q2U are the microphones that we recommend most for starting with a microphone for your podcast that isn't your computer or your phone, right? So this would be the first upgrade step. You can usually find these for around $100 or a little bit less than that. It's also worth noting that because you don't need an audio interface, these can be significantly less expensive than other setups because you don't have to purchase extra equipment. Usually you can get a kit with these and it comes with the mic stand. One thing to note here is with the combo microphones that have both XLR and USB, usually the body of them is a little bit wider. So that's why I'm using this mic clip right here. It wouldn't fit. The other mic clip that I was using wouldn't fit this microphone, so that's why I'm using this one. So just something to keep in mind, but oftentimes within the kits that you can get with these microphones will come a microphone stand. It'll come with the cables that you need. Sometimes it'll come with a little pop filter over the top of it to reduce those plosive sounds, those P's and B's. So everything you need in the box there for around $100 to get going with an external microphone that is going to sound significantly better than just using your computer's microphone or your phone's microphone without any post-processing. So again, this is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. All right, so now we are getting into the condenser microphone section of this microphone shootout. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Like I said, it is a condenser mic. It also has that cardioid mic polar pattern. Condenser mic versus dynamic mic. Technically, it works a little bit differently in terms of how it picks up the sound and translates that to a digital signal. We don't have to get into all the technicality, but in general, a condenser microphone is going to be a little bit more sensitive than a dynamic microphone. So one good thing about that is that the top end or the highs of the microphone that you'll hear are going to be usually a bit more clear, a little bit more present. One downside to that is that it may pick up a little bit more room noise, a little bit more of the background sounds that you have, just because of the sensitivity and the nature of the microphone in terms of the sensitivity. One thing that you'll hear kind of to really show that point is that Audio-Technica mics have a little bit more of a boosted high end in general. So a condenser microphone that has some clear highs, and then being Audio-Technica where they normally will boost the highs in general, kind of really shows that point here. So you may hear a lot more top end with this compared to some of those dynamic microphones that we had been comparing to previously. This is a popular beginner microphone getting into the condenser mic space. It sounds pretty decent on a bunch of different instruments as well as vocals. One thing to note is that Billie Eilish's breakout hit Ocean Eyes was recorded using this microphone. So not a huge kind of price point for a good deal, a good value, being that this usually comes in around $120 at the time of recording this. So again, this is the Audio-Technica AT2020. All right, so this microphone here is the Audio-Technica ATH-M50X STS. That is a mouthful of a name for this microphone, but it is a headset mic. It is also a condenser cardioid mic, similar to some of the other microphones, or at least one of the microphones that we've listened to so far. And being that the Audio-Technica AT2020 and this also have the same exact capsule. So the internal components that are picking up the sound are the same between those two microphones. So I just wanted to present this as a different option or a different form factor of a microphone that you may consider. This is the USB version of this headset mic. It also does come in an XLR version, but again, this is USB, so this is going directly into the computer from this cord here, and I can hear via that cord, and the microphone's signal is going through that cord as well to the computer. So normally with a headset mic, the lows, the low frequencies are going to be rolled off a bit more. So you're going to hear less of those in a headset mic compared to a bunch of the other kind of stationary microphones that we have listened to so far. So you may hear that even though it is using the same capsule. I'm sure there's some different processes going on that it is filtering through to reduce some of those lows, just because it is a headset mic, and that is kind of the nature of how those are treated. This microphone comes in around $220 at the time of recording this. And one thing that I just wanted to mention about headset mics that can be good or bad depending on how you look at it is the consistency of the sound with a headset mic, or consistency of volume, is usually pretty great. So if I'm turning my head side to side, like the volume is staying consistent there, right? If you were to do that with one of the stationary microphones, it would be coming in and out, and then you'd have to deal with all that leveling afterwards in post-production. On the same, or on the opposite side of that coin, is if you have to cough or sneeze, you can't just turn your head and do that and then come back on to talking or whatever you are doing. You have to mute the microphone by clicking the mute button on whatever program you're using, or you can turn this the microphone all the way up and it'll mute it, but then when you bring it back down, it may be in a different place. So that's just something to consider with a headset microphone. For some video podcasts, you may want to consider this. Often these are used in like news shows or sports shows, so it may be a consideration if you have one of those types of podcasts, or if you just want something that is a little bit simpler here so you don't have as much in front of you, right? So again, this is the Audio-Technica ATH-M50X STS. All right, so here we have a Neumann TLM-102. This is also a condenser cardioid mic like the Audio-Technica AT2020. One thing I didn't mention before in kind of considering condenser microphones is that they all require phantom power. So they need some boost in power to get their gain up to a usable level and to power the internal components. So most of the time that is going to be like via a 48 volt switch on your audio interface or something to get that phantom power over to it. So I am using that on the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 that I'm currently using with this. Again, being a condenser microphone, it is pretty sensitive, and this one in particular is really sensitive to handling noise. So another difference between condenser and dynamic microphones, usually dynamic microphones will be a little less sensitive to handling noise, whereas something like this Neumann TLM 102, being a condenser microphone and just the mic in particular, is very susceptible to picking up a lot of that hand holding noise. So I choose to have it on this kind of crazy looking yoke for it that has a bunch of things suspending the microphone so it's not picking up as much of that handling noise. This microphone is mainly used in like a studio setting or a home studio setting that can be pretty controlled. So that's why you see all this stuff on it. But again, being a condenser microphone, being a Neumann microphone, especially, it has a really nice top end. So when recording vocals, especially for like singing and stuff, this microphone does really well. But again, being a condenser microphone, you may need to have a bit more treatment in the space that you're working with so that it's not picking up as much of like the room noise, the sound bouncing off of the walls, picking up some of the reverb and things like that. So again, more sensitive, but if you are in a controlled and treated space, might be nice for you. This microphone is significantly more expensive than a lot of the others, coming in at around $800. All right, and I am back right where I started with the Shure SM7B. This is the main microphone that I use for a few different reasons, but I hope this has been helpful for you to get an idea of a few different microphones that you may consider or maybe not considering, but kind of just to get an idea of how they sound, the differences between them, and the use cases for them. So be sure to stick around a little bit longer. What I'm going to do now is take a sentence that I said with each of the microphones and play them back to back so you can hear a direct comparison between all the microphones that we just took a look at. So again, I hope this was helpful, and until next time, see ya. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast. Libsyn, the podcast hosting platform for ambitious creators. All the tools you need to reach loyal fans and monetize your podcast.